Have you ever wondered why locals in New Zealand guard certain locations like state secrets? What if I told you that some of the most breathtaking spots in this country aren't featured in any guidebook, and the only way to discover them is through whispered recommendations from people who've lived here their entire lives? Today, I'm about to reveal 15 hidden gems that most tourists will never see, places so spectacular that locals have been keeping them to themselves for generations. But here's the thing that'll blow your mind. Some of these locations are so remote and untouched that you might be among the first 100 people ever to set foot there. New Zealand isn't just about Milford Sound and Hobbiton, though those places are incredible. The real magic happens in the spaces between the postcards, in valleys that don't have names on maps, beside lakes that shimmer with colors you didn't know existed in nature. I've spent the last 18 months traveling across both islands, sleeping in my van, hiking trails that barely qualify as paths, and most importantly, befriending locals who eventually trusted me enough to share their most precious secrets. I've spent the last 18 months traveling across both islands, sleeping in my van, hiking trails that barely qualify as paths, and most importantly, befriending locals who eventually trusted me enough to share their most precious secrets. Let's start with something that'll challenge everything you think you know about New Zealand's geography. Hidden deep in the Coromandel Peninsula, there's a place called Cathedral Cove's Forgotten Sister. While thousands of tourists flock to the famous Cathedral Cove every single day, creating traffic jams and overwhelming the parking areas, there's another cove just 2 kilometers away that offers the same stunning limestone formations, crystal clear waters, and golden sand beaches, but with one crucial difference: you might have the entire place to yourself. The locals call it Gemstone Bay, though that's not its official name, and getting there requires a 30-minute hike through native bush that most people assume leads nowhere. The trail isn't marked, there are no signs, and unless someone shows you the hidden entrance behind what looks like an impenetrable wall of manuka trees, you'd walk right past it. But once you push through that natural curtain, you emerge onto a beach that feels like stepping into another world entirely. What makes Gemstone Bay extraordinary isn't just its isolation. The water here contains microscopic minerals that create an iridescent quality I've never seen anywhere else. When the afternoon sun hits the waves at just the right angle, the entire bay lights up like liquid silver mixed with emerald green. Local photographer Sarah Chen, who's lived in the area for 40 years, told me she's captured over 3,000 sunsets from this exact spot, and no two have ever looked the same. Moving from the coast to the mountains, let's talk about the South Island's most jealously guarded secret. Everyone knows about Mount Cook, Fiordland, and the popular hiking trails that appear in every travel magazine. But nestled in the heart of Canterbury, there's a valley system that even many New Zealanders have never heard of. The locals I spoke with refer to it simply as the Rainbow Valley, and once you see it for yourself, the name makes perfect sense. This isn't a single location, but rather a network of interconnected valleys where mineral deposits in the rock face create natural color gradations that shift throughout the day. During sunrise, the eastern walls glow with warm oranges and deep reds. By midday, the minerals reflect intense blues and purples, and as the sun sets, the entire landscape transforms into a canvas of gold and pink that photographers would literally kill for. Getting to Rainbow Valley requires more than just hiking boots and determination. You need a 4-wheel drive vehicle capable of handling river crossings, unmarked trails that would challenge experienced off-road enthusiasts, and most importantly, you need permission from the local Maori IWI who consider this land sacred. This isn't about jumping fences or ignoring private property signs. It's about showing respect for indigenous culture and understanding that some places require a different kind of approach. Te Koha, an elder from the local IWI who agreed to guide me through the valley, explained that their ancestors believed this landscape was where the earth first learned to paint. According to traditional stories passed down through generations, the rainbow serpent from Maori mythology rested in these valleys after creating the world's colors, leaving behind traces of its power in the rock formations. Whether you believe in those spiritual aspects or not, standing in Rainbow Valley feels like witnessing something that transcends ordinary natural beauty. Now, if you're thinking these hidden gems are all about remote wilderness locations, let me surprise you with something completely different. Some of New Zealand's best-kept secrets are hiding in plain sight, right in the middle of areas you might have already visited. Take Rotorua, for example, famous for its geothermal activity, sulfur smells, and tourist attractions that millions of people visit every year. But what if I told you there's a geothermal pool in Rotorua that's completely free, naturally heated to the perfect temperature year-round, surrounded by native plants instead of tour buses, and known only to a handful of locals who stumble upon it during their evening walks? This pool, which doesn't appear on any official maps, sits hidden behind a community garden that most tourists drive past without a second thought. Finding this thermal oasis requires timing, patience, and a willingness to explore areas that don't look particularly promising at first glance. The locals who showed me this spot explained that it formed naturally when underground hot springs shifted course following a minor earthquake about 15 years ago. Instead of reporting it to authorities or turning it into another commercial attraction, the community decided to keep it as their own little sanctuary. The pool maintains a constant temperature of 38 degrees Celsius, perfect for soaking after a long day of hiking or exploring. Native birds nest in the trees overhead, and the mineral content of the water is said to have healing properties for skin conditions and sore muscles. Speaking of unexpected discoveries, let's venture into the world of New Zealand's hidden waterfalls. On the west coast of the South Island, tucked away in a valley that requires crossing 3 unmarked streams and following what appears to be a deer track, there's a waterfall that drops over 200 meters in a single unbroken cascade. The locals call it Silver Thread Falls, and the name perfectly captures the way water transforms into something that looks more like liquid mercury as it plunges through the mist-filled air. What makes Silver Thread Falls extraordinary isn't just its height or beauty, it's the fact that you can actually walk behind the waterfall through a natural cave system that extends deep into the mountain. This isn't some tourist-friendly walkway with safety rails and lighting. It's a raw, authentic experience that requires headlamps, waterproof gear, and a healthy respect for the power of nature. Local adventure guide Marcus Thompson, who's been exploring these caves for over 20 years, shared something that perfectly captures why these hidden places matter so much. He told me that in an age where you can see virtually any location on Earth through social media or virtual reality, actually discovering something with your own eyes, your own feet, your own sense of adventure, becomes a precious and rare experience. But New Zealand's hidden gems aren't limited to natural wonders. Some of the most fascinating secrets involve cultural experiences that most tourists never encounter. Take the town of Lawrence in Otago, population barely over 400 people. Most travelers drive through without stopping, perhaps pausing long enough to buy petrol or grab a coffee. But hidden within this seemingly unremarkable community is one of the country's last traditional storytellers. An elderly man named William whose family has been passing down oral histories for over 6 generations. William doesn't advertise his services or maintain a website. You can't book an appointment or buy tickets to hear his stories. But if you happen to be in Lawrence on the right evening, if you ask the right questions at the local pub, if you show genuine interest in the area's history, you might find yourself invited to sit in his living room and listen to tales that predate European settlement by centuries. These aren't polished presentations designed for tourists. They're raw, authentic stories about the land, the people, the struggles and triumphs that shaped this region long before it appeared on any map. William's stories include accounts of Maori trading routes that connected distant tribes, early European settlers who adapted their farming techniques based on indigenous knowledge, and natural phenomena that occurred before anyone was keeping written records. As we explore these hidden gems, it's important to understand that they represent more than just Instagram-worthy photo opportunities or bragging rights about visiting secret locations. These places embody a different relationship with travel, one that prioritizes depth over breadth, quality over quantity, and genuine connection over superficial experiences. The hidden gems of New Zealand teach us that the most meaningful discoveries often happen when we slow down, when we take time to build relationships with local people, when we're willing to venture beyond the well-marked trails and popular attractions that dominate travel itineraries. They remind us that in our rush to see everything, we sometimes miss the most important things. But here's what might be the most important insight from exploring New Zealand's hidden gems. They're not really hidden at all. They're simply waiting for travelers who approach them with the right attitude, the right respect, and the right willingness to step outside their comfort zones. These places reveal themselves to people who understand that discovery isn't about conquering destinations, but about allowing destinations to transform you. So whether you're planning your first trip to New Zealand or your 10th, remember that the country's greatest treasures aren't necessarily the ones featured on postcards or travel websites. They're the ones that locals whisper about, the ones that require effort to reach, the ones that reward patience and respect with experiences you'll remember for the rest of your life. The wonders of New Zealand aren't just about what you see, they're about how those places make you feel, and the hidden gems I've shared today have the power to create feelings that simply can't be replicated anywhere else on Earth.